graphic verbal descriptions of child sexual abuse and incest. This film is not suitable for children.
How can you be a mother to me when I can remember having oral sex with you? How can that be a mother? How could any mother do the things you did?
I know you were abused as a child, but it's not an excuse. I was abused as a child, and I never abused a child. I never would.
You would never have chosen to get counseling no matter what was offered to you because you wanted to stay your daddy's little girl. He'd come up from Texas in his fancy car with air conditioning. No one up here had ever seen air conditioning in a car. He loved attention. He could tell I needed attention. And you felt special when he came because you and him would go into your bedroom and have sex. My dad at work and you having sex with your father. You'd sit me down at that dining table with some chocolate chip cookie dough so I wouldn't bother you. And I'd hear you in there. And then when your dad, when he brought me in, you weren't protective of me. You were jealous of me. You were jealous. You were jealous of me my whole life. I want to have the kind of mother I am. I deserve to have the kind of mother I am.
Hello, I'm Mary Knight, and I have one question so far. What was done to this woman? And maybe if you could clarify, and I don't know how to pronounce your name, Avrum. Are you talking about what was done to me? Oh, thank you. We have Awake came in, and Giorgio, welcome. So what was done to me is it's generational abuse, including incest, and so as well as ritualistic abuse involving some groups. Greetings from India. Thank you for coming, Sanchita. And here's Anne Marie and Lillian. Thank you, Anne Marie. So what exact abuse did I, okay. The abuse that I suffered, I don't go into every detail because I want this to be primarily about healing. I'm finishing my my memoir, and I have essays. It's essays, and different essays have different trigger warnings. And so the one that tells all about my familial sex trafficking and ritualistic abuse has an extremely high trigger warning. And I don't want this audience to need to hear all of that. If you contact me directly, I can send you that essay. And it does have graphic examples. I will say I did witness murder. So, I mean, it was ritualistic abuse. Kayla, thankful to see you healing from the abuse. It's not easy to get through. And what I want this to be about is ideas to help, because I know many of you also experienced horrendous abuse. And I want you to find ways you can heal. And most of the things that help me would help someone who's a survivor of incest, who's possibly even a survivor of physical abuse and not sexual abuse. I mean, the healing journey is very similar for many people. And one thing I say, and thanks from Tina from Southern Illinois. And yes, my abuse, Giorgio, did include satanic ritual abuse. I still have another question about were my hands and feet tortured, and um, I'm going to concentrate more on the healing. But if you want me to, you have a lot of questions, Avram, and I can send you that essay after this is over. Yeah, support groups, sharing with people you trust, and support groups, I think really help. Sharing with a pastor, sometimes I've gotten help from that and sometimes not. I remember one time a minister spent an hour just listening to me. And he said, I don't know how to help you, but he just kept listening. And that was helpful. Um, so yeah, Awake, thank you for sharing about yourself. And I'm so sorry that happened to you, that your father was extremely abusive. And you know, even though it wasn't sexual abuse, it's really hard, and your mother being jealous of you, which is a dynamic that oftentimes happens in incest situations. So maybe you could relate to the film that was just up, because my mother was so jealous of me. I thank you, Corinne, for saying that it makes you sad to know what happened to me. Oh, and Lillian got help from a pastor's wife. I personally, Giorgio, have not been through addiction to substances. Um, I um, I don't know why. I mean, some people are and some people aren't. Many of my fellow survivors are addicted, have been addicted to substances. I think that um, I'm very much in favor of 12-step groups, and I have gotten a lot of help from Al-Anon. So with Al-Anon, basically, my addiction was an addiction to pleasing people. And Al-Anon is really helpful with that. Other 12-step groups, AA is so good, and Narcotics Anonymous. Yes, M. Priam, strength and love for every person who has been through trauma of abuse. Greetings from Netherlands. Thank you for coming. And Lillian said that she's never been through it, but friends of hers have. So I'm going to, I'm sorry to hear you've been struggling with drug addiction. That is so difficult. Sanchita, provide some information on satanic ritual abuse. I have watched all your videos. They were very insightful. In my videos, thank you. Thank you for watching. In my videos, and you probably notice, I just tell about one instant because I think that's all the audience can handle. One, maybe two instances. And so my memoir is coming out in November. One of the essays is familial sex trafficking and ritualistic abuse. I put those two together because, well, I had known for many years I was a survivor of ritualistic abuse, but I didn't know it was also considered familial sex trafficking. My parents pimped me. They got money. I'd known that. I define that as ritualistic abuse. But if someone gets money from you being used in child pornography, or from you being prostituted, that is sex trafficking. And if that person is a relative, that's familial sex trafficking. I didn't think it counted as sex trafficking because my parents were my pimps, which is really sad. And I hear that from other people too. So anyway, in that essay, I combined those two. The trigger warning for it is medium. And then I have examples of ritualistic abuse. Trigger warning for it is extremely high. It does include murders I witnessed. And then examples of familial familiar sex trafficking, also that is extremely high. One thing I have observed regarding SRA is mainstream media lack of exposing. Yeah, there's a denial of it. And I was actually relieved when I realized I could call myself a sex trafficking survivor, because everyone knows that happens. No one can deny that. But the denial of ritualistic abuse is really heavy, and it makes it really hard for survivors. Where can we find those essays? So my website, and maybe my website is maryknightproductions.com. Maybe real Real Women, Real Stories can put that up, maryknightproductions.com. And when you go there, you'll find 2 of my essays are on it already. They're free, they're on it. And then when you go there, you'll see about my memoir that is coming out in November. It's a collection of essays. It's got about 15 essays in it. It's got 1 short story. A lot of the essays are not very triggering. Really long. It's the longest essay. It's like 10,000 words. And in that, I tell all the things that help me heal. I'm not going to tell any more specifics about my ritualistic abuse, but again, they're in the essays. And if you especially want kind of a peek preview, I will send you that ahead. Email me, and my email is maryknighthappy@yahoo.com. Okay, good. Krissa, you found out where my essays are. Good. Charis, maybe. I am so sorry if I mispronounced your name. I had speech therapy until I was in 4th grade. I will comment to Giorgio's comment that the children disappearing. I don't know if my parents worship Satan. I don't know what was in their mind. I know what they did to me, and I also know that some of what they did that was really bizarre made they videoed it, and they got child pornography films, which I'm sure they sold for a lot of money. So my website is maryknightproductions.com. My email, which you are welcome to email me, is maryknighthappy@yahoo.com. maryknighthappy@yahoo.com. Oh, it is spelled Charisse. Charisse, I hope I got that right. Thank you for telling me. I like to call people by their right names. Karen, I've heard about children were sacrificed in East Africa. Yes, children and adults who are more vulnerable are more victimized, and that's very sad. I've heard about it in all parts of the world. Let's see, Philip. Nice. I'm glad you're here, Philip. I am going to go to my list of how I healed and say a few things. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm guessing some of you on here are survivors, and some of you want to help other people you know who are survivors, whether it's of ritual abuse, physical abuse, whatever child abuse. And one thing I tell people, I just told someone earlier this week, is what really helped me is to start thinking of my recovery as a part-time job. And this was when I really wasn't sure how I was going to be supporting myself. I mean, this is when things were really difficult for me. And still, I was getting alimony, but only for a spousal support from my first marriage, but only for a limited amount of time. And I decided still, even so, I had to concentrate on getting well. And so I did do things to make money or to get me training so I could make money. But my my recovery work, I mean, I probably spent 20 hours a week on it, and I considered it my part-time job. So I had another part-time job, uh, and I also did recovery work. And in the evenings, I instead of thinking, well, I haven't gotten anything done today, all I did was listen to meditation CDs and rest and do yoga. Instead, I'd count up the hours I did that, and I'd go, wow, I spent 4 hours today on recovery work. If I'd read books on healing, that counted. Anything I did to heal counted. And I started counting those hours so that instead of feeling lazy, I would feel, well, smart, prudent, to do. And really, when you spend time on recovery work, it really is the checks in the mail. And I just have a great life now. One reason I don't have to spend so much on my recovery because massages are expensive, but my health is so much better now. So anything you spend on recovery work, know that that will pay off. And let your friends who are survivors know that, affirm them in what they do, because it seems like, it seems like you're not doing anything, but you are. Um, Thank you, incognita mode. Yes, I'm glad you like that way of looking at it. Yeah, I think it's a great way of looking at it, and it certainly has paid off for me. Yes, taking days off. Some days, the most productive thing you can do is take it easy and try not to stress. I so agree. And really, I'm always going to need a less stressful life. I mean, I'm always going to need to find ways to be less stressful. I want to help others. Please enlighten me how to understand the survivors of SRA. It's a really broad subject. And so what I'm doing is telling my own story and hoping that helps some. And I think listening to survivors, there's other survivors who have written books, or there's other on Real Women, Real Stories website. There's other films on by survivors of satanic ritual abuse, um, and listening to survivor stories, I think, is really important. But I will go back to, I know I'm getting a lot of questions on satanic ritual abuse, but the basic ways of healing are going to help you as you minister to other people, or as you, if maybe you don't use the word minister, but as you reach out to other survivors. And so, can you tell us, how do you heal from this? How did you cope? Okay, so I have a list of my basic things I started out with. And the first thing on the list is get plenty of sleep. I know that seems like, oh, that's no big deal, but really, I get 9 hours of sleep a night. I'm always going to. And get enough sleep. It's hard for survivors to get enough sleep. I still have nightmares. So arrange your life so you get enough sleep. That seems really basic, but it's important. Another thing is eat healthy. I used to have fibromyalgia. I had pain every day, and I started eating a very healthy diet, and I still do. This morning, I made myself French toast with my homemade bread that doesn't have much sugar in it, and then I put nectarines on top. No syrup, nectarines. And it was wonderful. But by getting used to not eating much refined sugar, eating whole foods, drinking plenty of water, trying to wean yourself off those sugary drinks, I also try not to consume artificial flavors or artificial sweetener. It's just a super healthy diet. I've read books on how to heal from fibromyalgia, and they had all these different diet ideas, and some of them said, well, eat fish every day, and others said, don't ever eat fish. Well, you can't do both of those, but all the things they agreed upon, I did. And I already didn't drink coffee, didn't drink alcohol, so I mostly drink water, and that's good for you. I quit drinking even fruit juice because it does have a lot of sugar. Whole fruit is better for you. And I even quit eating chocolate. I quit eating chocolate for 13 years. Now I eat it again. Oh, thanks, Cherise. She's looking forward to my memoir. I hear this, forget your abusers a lot. Is this part of healing? Why shall we forgive our abusers? It strikes me as odd. I do not think that you need to forgive your abusers. And you can't forget. So I think there are people who say, forgive your abusers. There are people who say that because it has worked for them. And that's fine. For some people, that is what works. And I affirm them in their journey. For me, it was like, for a while, I considered forgive a bad word. I just wouldn't use it. I wouldn't listen to other people who would. I'm not sure. So never forgive, simply nature asks, so never forgive, even not as Catholic. I'm not Catholic. I grew up conservative Christian. There are people in churches I have gone to who say you should always forgive. There's people who are not religious who say you should always forgive. And I don't, that's just not what I believe. You need to forgive yourself. And sometimes forgiving too soon makes you, there's different parts of yourself, and one, as a child, you were really angry and you could not express that anger. And for someone to say, you should forgive, that can sound to a survivor of child abuse like you should forget about that angry child you used to be. And that angry child needs help. That angry child needs comfort and love, not to be sit in a corner and never looked at. So you need to, it's really important to go through a process. Some people say, I have forgiven my parents. I do have a film coming out in November. It'll be on I anticipate it being on Real Women, Real Stories in November. And the title is Mothers and Molestation, a film about child abuse. And it does show my process with my mother. I have always been a vulnerable person, and somehow predators notice that. Did you experience the same problem? And how did you protect yourself in Priam? Yes, I had problems in choosing men for romantic relationships, and I had to take 2 years off dating, not date, not think about dating, not hang out with women who only thought about dating, not just, and I'm talking, I'm heterosexual, so although I have many friends who are gay, but if I'd hang out with groups of women, and all they talked about was dating, I would quit hanging out with them. I really was very conscious in not in embracing single life, and that helped me heal. And I am now married to, I just have a wonderful husband. Okay, I don't agree that forgiveness of abusers is necessary. Okay, you and I agree on that. Every survivor has their own way of healing. No one should have to feel forced to forgive for what was done to them. I agree with Incognito on that. Thank you. There was another message, uh, Giorgio, healing path, you tried. Did I try Krishna? I did not cry. I have never been a part of the Krishna movement. So no. I don't have any comment on it. I just don't have any experience with it. I am going to, another film of mine will be coming available just in the next couple of days, and it is Places I Was Sex Trafficked as a Child, a partial list, and how I healed. So there's going to be a little about healing, a little about my current life, and it's just a 2-minute video. It's easier to watch than if some of you were on it, the first one about why my mother molested me. I think this one's easier to watch. Anne-Marie saying forgiveness is not essential, but letting go of the trauma by self-healing. Yes, we need to heal. We need to and we need to forgive ourselves. It's really sad how many survivors think that in some way it was their fault. And I think that's something people who want to help survivors, I like if when someone finds out what happened to me, for them to say, I'm sorry that happened to you. And I don't need it as much anymore, but at first it really helped for them to say, I believe you. Those words, I believe you. I am sorry it happened to you, and I believe you. With all this hard experience you walked, how did you change your view of life and everything around you? I'm going to talk about one thing that's, in a way, people are wanting information specific to satanic ritual abuse. And I will tell you what my counselor told me. I had been in recovery just like a year and a half or so. I had remembered my abuse just a year and a half at age 37. So I must have been, 38 or 39 at the time. And I was talking about all these scary things. And she said, if you see the world, if you see the people in the world as mostly bad, you're going to have a hard time living. You're going to have a hard time enjoying life. But if you see the people in the world as mostly good, and you unfortunately were with, the bad people, then that makes it easier to just walk in the world. And that has helped me a lot. And instead of expecting all these catastrophes to happen, just, focus on the good. I mean, just like I still go to physical therapy. I went yesterday, and they have you answer all these questions about how sick you are or whatever. But I prefer if I go to someone who's not, under my insurance, who I can just talk about how well I am. And I had an acupuncturist who was covered by insurance, but he would have me tell how well I've been, and write about being well instead of writing about not being well. And Giorgio, is this from Giorgio? I have experienced trauma when I was a child and as an adult. You try to isolate and stay home. Yeah, it's really important to get out and to find safe groups of people. And that's hard, but when you find safe groups of people, be with them. And one of my book clubs is women. My husband's Jewish, and we go to synagogue, and it's women from synagogue. We don't talk about abuse, per se, or not often, or that's not the books we read, but it's just nice to be around women who, have nice lives and care about each other. In your movie, you seem very reserved while talking to Professor Loftus. Were you afraid of her in any way? How come you didn't have the urge to confront? Is this part of healing acceptance? Well, I was afraid when I saw Dr. Loftus, not because I thought she'd say something that would make me no longer believe my memories, because at that point, I'd already interviewed some other people, and I knew my memories were true. But one thing, I just had 2 hours. Well, I didn't even know I had that long, and I didn't know how long I had with her. I had a long list of questions. I did confront her in some ways. Some of the confrontation did not make it into the film. Some of the confrontation had to do with another survivor, and that survivor chose not to be a part of my film. And so I didn't include anything about that survivor in my film, which means I didn't include one of the confrontations of Dr. Loftus. I If I got too confrontive, she talked about ending the interview. So why wasn't I more confrontive? I, needed to keep the interview going. But also, I will say again, some confrontation did not make it into the film. I had a 2-hour interview, and I could not put all that in. And something I did talk to her about was why she is no longer at the University of Washington. And I if you email me, I can direct you to information about that. Um, Earth is the crave of everything. Amazing how you reach such view of positivity. You didn't let that scar stop you. No, I haven't let it stop me, but I will say, and I want to say this real clearly because I know there's survivors among you. It didn't stop me, but it slowed me down many times. So if you feel slowed down, don't be discouraged. If you feel slowed down, don't be mad at yourself. If you feel slowed down by your abuse, hold yourself with love and find other people who will hold you with love, who will, counselors. If you find a church that you're comfortable in, it's okay to get more than you give for a while. It is okay. I quit. One of my things on my How I Healed list is just don't do too much. And one thing I did, and I'm really earth friendly, but one thing I did is I quit recycling. When I first remember my abuse, I was so busy with so many things, and I had young children. I didn't want to let them down. And I just couldn't, let it affect them any more than absolutely essential. But I could quit recycling for a while. I mean, the earth still made it through with me not recycling for a while. So find shortcuts you can do as you're recovering. I have experienced guilt, but I don't now. I don't experience guilt now. It was just not my fault what happened to me when I was a little girl. And I think it's helping to go public. I do have an essay on family that includes some things I have never included before. And one of the things related to my father, it's embarrassing to me and less embarrassing now that I'm being public about it. So it's in that essay. And the I'm excited about my memoir coming out. I'm getting it done as quick as I can, so that it will be available in November, and you can see more about me than I've made public before. I'm looking at some more of your comments. Yeah, there are people who change records and call victims crazy, Christina. It's so sad that happens. Um, oh, Karen, wishing me health. Great. Yes, Cherise, it is hard to trust people. And part of it is finding the right people to trust because, when we're abused, we're in this group of people who want us to be vulnerable, and it's hard to get out and get to a different place and find people. Sometimes group counseling is another thing I put on my How I Heal list. It's really helpful to me. EMDR has been helpful to me in Priam. I not only did I go to therapy, I still go to therapy. I get therapy every 2 weeks, and it just helps me kind of get through, well, the stresses of finishing my film and finish my memoir. But just it's nice. It's like having a friend you can talk to, but it's always your turn to talk. I'm very excited. I very much recommend therapy, and my I list various kinds. I share a type of therapy I had. It's oh, I'm trying to think of the word. Body-oriented psychotherapy, and I had it in Germany. It's not available in a lot of places, but it was really helpful to me, and I actually have my therapy session, that I had in Leipzig, Germany, in my film, Mothers and Molestation, a film about child abuse, and again, that will be out in November. So I have the whole therapy session. Well, not the whole therapy session, but an all parts of it, so you can see that. But I did things like pounding on, like I did physical things like pounding on using like a bat or a bat sort of thing to pound on an object to get anger out. How were you able to harness your strength and self-love? Um, well, I think part of what I did was I've always been really a loving person. So I used that strength that I'd already developed to love myself. And I got a doll. Next time I'll try to have it here so I can show you the doll. But I got a doll and I dressed her in different. I buy little, just kind of a large doll, so I'd buy baby clothes for her, and I'd dress her, and I'd listen to the song "Hero" by Mariah Carey. Now this is a while back, but I still like the words to "Hero" by Mariah Carey. And I'd listen to it. It was before you could do repeat. Like I'd listen to it on my CD player, and then I'd have to go and punch it again so it would happen again. But now I would just put it on a constant play. And I would just hold the doll and rock her while listening to those words. So finding a way, to love yourself, because the doll represented me, and so I could hold her. Unpopular question: how should we believe you or other survivors in general? Don't extraordinary accusations come with extraordinary evidence? That's a good question. But the people who have the evidence are the abusers, and they don't tell their victims. I have more evidence than most people because I have 5 relatives with similar memories, but all are recovered memories. I have another evidence I have is I had extreme vaginal scarring, and I went to pelvic floor physical therapy and no longer have that. But that could have been from doing the splits as a little girl, but I didn't do the splits as a little girl. Could have been from trauma to that area of my body, vaginal area, but that would have been from the abuse. And I know I had it when I was still a child. This personal topic, so I won't go into it more, but I know I had it when I was still a child, so it definitely was not from childbirth. Elizabeth Loftus was a popular researcher who really did any of it. Yeah, Dr. Elizabeth Loftus really hurt a lot of survivors. And I clearly say that in my film. And I was like, are you sure you should say that about her in your film? But it's true. She just hurt a lot of us. I know someone who blames her sister's suicide on Dr. Loftus because the timing of such, but her sister not being believed hurt her in a sense more than the abuse, and she did commit suicide. Are men seeing women as an object for satisfying their desires? I was sexually abused by men and by women, and if you weren't here at the first, maybe you didn't see why my mother why my mother molested me, but I was abused by both, and why they did it, I don't know. I don't know. Do you think governments hide the truth about ritual abuse? And Giorgio says, yes, I know, I speak about what I know from personal experience. That is what I can do to help society. That is what I can do to make a difference, to make the world safer. And that's all I speak about. Um, I do not know of that. I don't think I was abused by any. I don't know of any instances where I was abused by government officials. Not everyone is lucky to have a good therapist. That is absolutely true. No, you usually don't find your first therapist on the first visit. I went, I feel like I moved to Bellingham like 4 years ago, and I feel like I'm in a pretty good place now, a solid place of recovery. And I had 3 counselors who were terrible. And finally, I was trying to get a counselor through my insurance. And finally, I called my insurance and said, I told them all these experiences. I said, I am a survivor of sex trafficking. I was trafficked by my parents, and I just had a counselor who tried to talk me into getting back in touch with my sister. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to get back in touch with any of the relatives of my pimps. I'm just not going to do that. It's not therapeutic. And it's not what I asked for anyway. Um, it was when I was applying for foster care and I needed a psychotherapist to, basically vouch for me. They interviewed me more closely because of my extreme childhood abuse, which, interestingly enough, I mean, I've raised 2 sons who are doing well, and my husband never had children. We've been married since 2010, and he breezed through the interviews, but they interviewed me very in depth, and so I needed a counselor to vouch for me, and during this session, she tries to get me back in touch with my sister, who doesn't want to see me, hasn't wanted to see me for over 20 years, 30 years. It's just absurd. Okay, I don't want to get on to the topic of bad counselors because we all know there are bad counselors. And I want people to know there are also good counselors. So if you want to share something about your good counselor, that would be really nice. I reported abuse in 1992 when I was 16, and they kept hospitalizing me and calling me schizophrenic whenever I reported it. Christina, I am so, so, so sorry that happened. I'm so sorry that happened. I mean, the powerful people are the people who can do things like that, and the adults and all. Um, and it was, and I'm so sorry you spoke out and you were vulnerable because you were 16. And just so sorry. And Thumper is saying, I'm so sorry to Christina. That is so sad. And I will go back to people saying, don't you have evidence? Well, the people who have evidence are the ones, I mean, my guess is a motive of the people who hospitalized Christina was so that they could hide all evidence. I mean, the survivors are the evidence. I am the evidence. The fact that one of my essays is how I know my recovered memories of incest are true. And there's 10 items on that list. And one way is that I have a good life now. How could I believe this lie and have this good life now? That doesn't make sense to me. Also, my health has gotten better. I have 5 relatives who confirm my memories, but there's others that, that other people, that anyone is a survivor. The thing is about asking survivors for evidence is most don't have it. What evidence is there of incest? And then the other problem is it makes you think that it again keeps you from speaking out. And the evidence is survivors speaking out. I'm good talking, answering questions. I will in a few minutes just kind of go through a list of ways I healed. Weeping Willow gave hearts. Thank you. Oh, I am so sorry for the people who stay in fear for their life. I will say, as I was getting ready for this, I thought about something I really needed to say. If someone contacted me, she had been in a shelter for survivors of human trafficking, and her worker knew that I was a survivor of ritual abuse, and we set up a time to talk. And she told me that her abusers just keep finding her wherever she is. And I didn't want to believe that. And that's not true of me. But since I've just thought, I'm so sorry I didn't just say, I believe you. And she just travels from place to place because her abusers find her. And I just wish I could apologize to her. And I just want to say to everyone here, some of you, that may be the situation where, I found a way to be safe. I found a way to live in a home. I tell people I live in Bellingham, Washington. Um, I'm not afraid. But my situation may be different too. So most of my abusers are dead now, which made it easier to make a film because I can say their names. So yeah. Oh, someone is in Texas now. I used to live in Texas. I have grandkids in Texas. It's really sad when you said the survivors are the evidence, like thinking about the one who didn't make it. And even so, survivors truly have no evidence besides physical or mental scars. Yeah, we have our emotional scars, whatever. What do you think about Roe versus Wade? I I do have some thoughts about that, but my thoughts are I'm wondering if it might polarize to share them. And so I'm going to choose not to. I'm not going to talk about Roe versus Wade. I think what I have that I specifically can offer is to share about my life. I'm going to go back to ways I healed, how I healed. And so I talked about getting plenty of sleep. I talked about eating healthy. I talked about consider it your part-time job. I talked about quit trying to do too much. I quit doing if I was doing a lot of volunteer work when I remembered my abuse. I quit doing volunteer work unless it directly affected my sons. I was still homeroom mom. But I quit. I was in charge of I was asked to be in charge of a wonderful art program for elementary school age children, and my sons would be a part of it, but it didn't so directly affect my sons, and I said no. And I explained why, and it was interesting. The artist believed me immediately about my abuse, and later I was involved in that. But I just quit. If I could quit doing it, I quit doing it. And I gave the example of I quit recycling. I'm very earth friendly, so don't get mad at me now. I recycle all the time now, but I quit recycling for a while. And when I would throw that tin can into the garbage, I would think, I am doing this so the little girl me has a little more time to heal. Another thing I did to heal was exercise, and I had fibromyalgia, so it's really hard to exercise when you have fibromyalgia because it can hurt to exercise. And yet I did. I found ways to exercise that I could handle, and I kept doing it because I just don't know anyone who's gotten well from chronic pain, and mine was trauma-induced chronic pain. I haven't known anyone who got well without exercise. And let's see. Oh, and Real Women, Real Stories is saying that any of you who is a survivor and wants to go live, to contact him, and he gives his email address. Very good. I recommend you do that. Yeah, because this is really good, going live as a survivor. So I suggest you contact him. And also, please subscribe to Real Women, Real Stories. That allows us to have more people here. And also, if you have time to take just a minute, I have posted this live on my Facebook page. Please post it on yours, and then we'll have more people because we have another hour. So if you could post it on your Facebook, post it on your LinkedIn, post it on your other accounts, and Twitter. Post it so that other people can come, and I will talk more about how I healed. Another thing that has helped me is meditation or prayer. I put meditation/prayer. And I think that's really important to find a way to meditate. Or let your mind let go of all your thoughts so your mind can be clear. It really helps. And early in my recovery, I did it by journaling. Which I do sometimes now. Now I do yin yoga, which I love yin yoga. It's yin yoga. It's a kind of yoga that's just relaxing. It's similar to restorative yoga. Earth says, when I watched the documentary made, the doctor who said that kids under 1 don't remember, a lot of people disrespected him. He didn't say that it's he didn't say that it's okay to abuse a child. Dr. Pancras did not say that it's okay to abuse a child. He said that anything that is done to a child under 3, the child won't remember, and therefore it won't affect the child, which I adamantly disagree with. And but I wanted to include that in my film to know that there's people out there who say it. And he's someone who does not believe me about my memories of child abuse. And he says that. The problem with someone saying that, even if they say, but I'm saying it's wrong to do that, but it won't affect the child, is that abusers only hear the part that says it won't hurt the child. And so that can be an excuse for abusing a young child. Georgina said, thank you for going live. Thank you, Georgina, for your comment. Yes, it reminds us we can recover later in life. Yes. Yeah, so many people have young memories. And to say that it doesn't, I mean, his example was so bizarre. His example was if a 2-year-old sees his parents being murdered, it won't affect him. I mean, how could that not affect a child? They wouldn't have their parent anymore. And the child would have to go to another home. I mean, his example was so extreme. And I thought I had given him that example because I couldn't believe anyone would actually say that. But he did. That was his example that he gave. Can you feel that you split and have DID after trauma? I would say about half of the satanic ritual abuse survivors I have known have DID or multiple personalities, and about half of us don't. I don't consider that I have multiple personalities, but I know I do dissociate more than the average person. And by that, I mean that I'm always aware of where I am and who I am, but I sometimes have difficulty really paying attention. Everyone dissociates some. Like if you're driving a car and then you're like, you miss an exit and you're like, oh, I didn't see that. Well, you were driving the car, you weren't fully disassociated because you were driving, but you kind of were checking out some and you missed the turn. So everyone dissociates. I do it more than most people. My driving has gotten better as I've gotten into a better level of recovery. And sometimes dissociation is really helpful because if you're in a boring class or then, sometimes, and yeah, you just have to be in the class, and dissociating can be helpful. Um, yes, Allison, thank you for sharing that personal thing about yourself. I have gotten many, many comments from people who are, uh, from many people who were abused as very young children. And the other comment I got, and this is going to be in my new film, Mothers and Molestation, a film about child abuse. He was in the audience when I was I did my lecture on camera. And he came to me, he said, I didn't realize what all you were going to talk about. And he said, I have something I can share if you want. And he was just, I had told him he could ask a question about foster care, and that was what he was going to say. But he's a nurse, and he said, I have very clear memories of my mother. She took excellent care of me until she committed suicide when I was 3 years old, before I was 3 years old. So he has a good memory of his mother. Yeah, Real Stories, Real People, if you could put the comment up you just had so I can, it had to do with the FBI. And I have tried to report my abuse to law enforcement, FBI, and I just don't have enough evidence. I don't have the kind of evidence that holds up in court. I don't know if that's what the question was exactly on. Georgina, I have never dissociated. I am autistic and I can't really automate things that regular people can. I wondered sometimes if that was better or worse. As a survivor, I don't know. I don't know. That would be kind of a long conversation. Georgina, if you want to email me, I'm glad to address that, but I can address it briefly. And the comment about the FBI, put that back up. Yeah, Georgina, I just can't address it briefly, but if you email me, I'm glad to. How do you get help? I've tried our FBI. Oh, I'm so sorry. You've tried too. Yes, I have tried. Yes. Yeah, it's really hard to get help. You have to, to go to the police, you have to have a certain level, a certain type of evidence. And people think, you need to turn, if you suspect child abuse, you need to turn it into the police. But what it actually is if you have evidence to suspect child abuse. I mean, if you have no evidence, I would recommend support groups. I mean, because there's enough of us who don't have that kind of evidence that we can support each other, and also find ways to get to safety. May I share your contact details in this channel with my community? Oh, please do. Please do. That's a way that more people can know about it. We really appreciate you sharing this channel. And yes, you can share my email, although I tend to email back to people who have already seen my film, or have some, or been on a live or whatever, so they have some knowledge of me. And you can share my my website, which again tells about my upcoming memoir. But my films are on this site, so sharing this site is really helpful. I'm just really so pleased that I worked hard on the films. I'm so pleased that they're being seen a lot, and I appreciate real women, real stories for the exposure. I have not tried Taoism. I have tried a couple of different kinds of Buddhist meditation retreats, and I found those helpful. And one of them had really good food too. But yeah, I've been to silent retreats where as long as 5 days, and they were really helpful to me to help me clear my mind. I just mentioned meditation as a form of healing. And the thing about it, it's really hard to do. It's really hard to discipline yourself to release all thoughts from your mind. And sometimes it's easier in a group setting. So if you can find a good meditation retreat center, sometimes they're really expensive, but sometimes they're not too. Oh, Allison, thank you for your comment. Thank you so much. Yeah, so the forms of meditation I've used are Buddhist. I like Vinyasa, no, Vinpasa, I think it's called. And it's just a very basic letting go of your thoughts. I have tried Zen. I've been to a Zen retreat and they're more strict. Like I tried to take a nap and they wouldn't let me, they're more strict. But I like how they do the walking meditation. So you do sitting meditation for 25 minutes and you do walking meditation for I think 10 and then another 25. Anyway, or maybe for 5. Anyway, I like walking meditation and that's how I found out about it, was through a Zen retreat. Was your family Catholic? No, mine was not Catholic. I grew up in a conservative Christian church called the Church of Christ. Very conservative. We were taught we were the only ones who would be going to heaven because we were baptized correctly. I know that seems odd, but Catholics were not it. We were told Catholics wouldn't go to heaven because they were baptized as infants, and we were even told Baptists weren't going to heaven because their doctrine was a little different with baptism. I have found that there are satanic ritual abusers in every religion. Sadly, every religion. And I thought mine was more common. And I think religions that teach that they are the only ones it's harder to get out of, I guess. But someone Presbyterian, I always thought is very mainstream and being the least likely. And I had a friend who asked if I was Presbyterian. She said she had 3 survivor friends who are, I'll get to the Church of Christ question. She said she had 3 survivor friends. Both of their parents, all 4 of these survivors had both parents were Presbyterian, grew up Presbyterian, and were satanic ritual abuse survivors. Church of Christ is, they're autonomous Christian congregations. And when I talk about Church of Christ, I also talk about a friend of mine who I was very suspicious of at first because he is a minister in the Church of Christ, and he talks about child safety in churches. But he, in fact, I just trust him implicitly. And his name is Jimmy Hinton, and he has a website, jimmyhinton.com, and he's done excellent work in child safety. He turned in his own father, who is serving a prison sentence for the rest of his life, and his father was a retired Church of Christ minister and a pedophile. So there are good people and bad people in every church, is my own conclusion. I think Monique says they hide in churches. Yeah, abusers hide in churches, but they also hide other places. And I do have an essay that is free on my website about my parents' involvement in KKK. I feel like everything is a lie. I'm furious. I'm sick and tired of this world. I think I hear very little about Kim Kardashian. I don't know what's going on for her because I don't watch the news. And that's another thing on my list of how I healed. I quit watching the news. I don't watch it. And at one point, when there was so much, this was a long time ago, when there was so much about Clinton, I said to my teenage sons, tell me if there's a new president, because I'm just not going to watch this anymore. And I don't watch what's going on now. I just don't watch it. And it helps me to get CDs, or you can go to library and get. I started listening to famous Buddhist, very famous. I'm not thinking of his name, but it was like inviting him into my home. And this was during the 2 years I was spending away from dating. And I would listen to him. I would listen to Pema Chodron, too, another famous Buddhist speaker. And I would listen to my meditation CDs. I would just be very mindful of what came into my life. And I had to do that to start having a better life. Religion is what man did to God, not what God did to man. These pedophiles will stand before their maker. Eternity is a long time. Thank you, Nancy, for your comment. Oh, Douglas, you don't watch the news either. Good for you. Yeah, yeah. That's one thing I wrote, and this is in my memoir too. I wrote more about it because I'll tell people I don't watch the news, and it's like I have spoken against their religion, and people act like I am destroying the world by not watching the news, which doesn't really make sense. How am I impacting the world by not watching the news? So, but I've learned to speak of it really carefully and to just say, I'm not saying that's something you should do. I know it's a very personal decision to not watch the news, and that's just what I do. And I talk about it basically like it's a religion. Like, this is, you know, I you may have very strong beliefs about this, and I'm not criticizing your beliefs. Imprium, what really helped me to stabilize myself after a mental breakdown was adopting a cat. Cuddling and purring helps me to calm down. That is wonderful, wonderful news, and a good idea. I don't have any pets, so I didn't put that in my. But I did have a cat that helped me heal a lot. She's now living with her new moms, and I do still hear about her. But yeah, I don't have a pet now. We do have foster children sometimes. So Monique says, "What was your mom's mom like?" I know about your grandfather, but how about her? Monique, I like to think that grandma was okay and just didn't have much power to stop it. Maybe didn't know, but that's a hard thing to believe. Yeah, it's hard to believe she didn't know, but that was the grand. I mean, I just don't know about her. I just don't know about my mom's mom. I When in doubt, I don't trust someone with a child, and I wouldn't trust her with a child. But if she were alive now, I would visit her. My mother's mother. Douglas says, yeah, if when you don't watch the news, you're not up on certain things, and I really like not watching the news. And I'll tell people, yeah, I don't watch the news. I had a problem in yoga class, because yoga class I go to relax, and that's how I found out we might be going to war. It's like, I don't want to hear about that, particularly not at yoga. I mean, I don't want to hear about that at yoga class. My husband does tell me if there's something I particularly need to know, and then I do throw research on things that I feel like I need to know about, so I don't feel like I'm missing out. Oh, Priam is talking about her cat. Cats can be really healing, and dogs. Okay, and there's some conversation between you, which is good. If that's comfortable to you, that's good. And I will. I'm not sure I've been able to read all your comments. Oh yeah, Allison talked about a form of meditation that's helpful to her. And I will just right now, that makes me think of something super simple that helps me. Oh, did you fully recover from your abuse? I am right now writing my essay entitled My Life Now. And I feel like I'm very healed. I do still have nightmares. Oh, I should put that in it. But yeah, I fully healed. I, no, like I just went to physical therapy yesterday. I do still have pain, which I think is related to it, but it's just not severe pain. Yes, there's dog people and cat people saying dogs are good and cat people, yeah. I'm going to do something right now that may be healing for you. So and it's something that helps me when I need to clear my mind. So it's a form of meditation. So right now, list 5 things you can see. So I can see my eyes in the video screen. I can see my chair. I can see my sofa. I can see an American Girl doll, which I have displayed in my living room. And I can see a picture across the on the opposite wall. So 5 things you can see. And then now list 4 things you can hear. I can hear our air conditioner. I can hear my voice. I can hear some little thud in the house. I can't hear another thing. So sometimes I cheat and go like that so I can hear that. And then 3 things you can touch, you can feel. So I can feel my dress. I can feel my clothes on my body. I can, now I'm feeling my ear, right? And I can feel my arm. And just, it gets you in the moment, things you can feel. 2 things you can smell. Oh, it just seems really fresh. The air seems really fresh. And then, yeah, 2 things I can smell. 1 thing you can taste. And it can be something you can remember tasting recently. So, who did that? Tell me if you did that. So, this is just mindfulness. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Or the other way some people do it is 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, and then 1 thing you can taste, 1 thing you can touch, can feel, and 1 thing you can smell. Good, Imprium, you just did that. Good, yes, it's mindfulness. Oh, thank you, Ellen. What a nice comment. Okay, good. Thank you, Ellen says, you are amazing. Thank you. And listening from Holland. Oh, Leah. I don't know how to pronounce the first name, so I'll just say Leah. Wonderful. Which probably was a mispronunciation since you're from Holland. But anyway, thank you. This is so good that so many people are here. Yeah, someone mentioned he's a chain smoker, and it's good to get away from that kind of thing. But I also really respect that you can't do everything at once. I can see silk, sunflowers, and lilies in the mail truck out the window, and the hummingbird feeder and the American flag hanging in my window. Thank you, Christina. Yes. Yeah, that helped me. I showed my film in Germany, Leipzig, Germany, and while there, I was nervous about my presentation. I was nervous being in another country, and it helped me to do that. I would often do that while my husband was trying to get directions and stuff, uh, because we did do some sightseeing, and it just helped me to do. Yes, just smell yourself. Yeah, smell my hand. Um, Oh, Georgina, I cut some of my feather pillow off and take it everywhere. When I can smell it and feel it, I feel so safe. Good. That's great to find ways. And I love you sharing ways that help you feel safe, because basically finding safety is how we heal. I mean, really finding a safe place and finding a place you feel safe enough to go to sleep. I take my pillow with me. I took it to Germany. I take it everywhere. I got a real nice air mattress from REI, and I took it to Germany because if a bed's not the right, if it's too soft, it bothers me, but usually they're too hard. And so I bring my air mattress so I can sleep well. I used to bring my CD player and CDs because I couldn't sleep without them, but now I usually can. But finding your level, your way of being safe. And if you think of it if you think of it as though you're caring for a little child who was abused, that's really what you're doing. And you're finding that level of safety for that person who you used to be. Um, Good thing you have this, Douglas says, good thing you have this platform for people. It seems as though you're helping a lot of people. Yes, I think I am so pleased that my films are being viewed so much, because they were a lot of work. And yeah, that was my whole reason for making them, is to help people. Oh, I always glamorize going overseas. Yeah, travel, I think, is hard as it relates to healing. Travel is hard on your body when you have chronic pain, and I think it's just hard, can be hard emotionally too. So, sometimes I just enjoy learning about other countries by talking to people who are from those countries instead of going there. Amazing how the documentary let a lot of survivors show up and share their stories. God bless you. Thank you, Earth. God bless you also. And yes, I think it's so healing to share your stories. And I see you are here. And I will read. I have not read every single comment, but I will when this is over, because I want to. And I'm so pleased you're talking to each other. Groups are really important. When you enjoy little things like smell, then you can just be happy. Maybe we are all lucky. I think in some ways, survivors do enjoy life more. I mean, we have to do a lot to get to healing, but yeah, I think we have an appreciation for life. I know I remember, I mean, I can feel the feelings of childhood still, and it's a blessing. Yeah, Aisha, I am happy you got out. May God give you more peace. And I don't know if that message is to me or to another person, but I'll just take it as to me and to everyone, to all the survivors who hear my voice. I am glad you got out, and I hope you continue to find more peace. Um, I never looked at it from that angle, but I'm glad I have learned that today. What are the crucial contributions you make to family recovery and in order for your family not to be influenced by the trauma. I share more than I have shared publicly in one of my essays, and I'm not ready for it to come out just yet. I'm still working on editing it, but it will be out with my memoir in November. And I am careful what I say about family, but I have carefully written it and am carefully editing it, and it will be out in November. The essay family. Um, oh, Monique, your film is a classic. It's going to change the world. Monique, thank you so much for your comment. Thank you, Monique. How sweet. It does mean so much to me when people see my film. And I need to do a shout out for all the volunteers and near volunteers who worked on it, because everyone who worked on it was underpaid, and it was a lot of work to make the film. I'm not going to make any more feature-length films, but I'll make some more short ones. Okay, Georgina said something about herself. How can I comfort a friend who went through something similar? Listen. I would say listening, being a friend who listens is so important. Take care of yourself, because you can't just listen all the time. But the listening is so healing. And for me, when I was remembering the abuse, and there were so many memories, it felt like I had to pay someone to listen. And there was something really more healing about, I had a few friends who would listen. And it was even more healing to have someone who would just listen. And it wasn't that I needed their advice. I just wanted to, it just made me feel more normal to be able to share things about my life without paying someone to listen. So that would be I know I'm not saying more than that, but listening is such a huge thing that you can do. Listening attentively, but refraining from advice. And um, my essay on how I healed, is something that can be shared. I'm trying to think more of what I put on basics. How can you ensure that none of your family members will have a secondary trauma by listening to your trauma? Yes, I don't think you can ensure that, and I think that would be a question for. I appreciate the question. I think that would be more an individual question. And occasionally I do talk on the phone to people or do Zoom calls with people individually when it's a question I can't answer um, succinctly. So my email is up, um, is available, and but um, that is a question that is complicated that I would really need to know more about the specific people you're talking about and how that could be. I don't think it's necessary to share all your um, memories with a family member. And um, yeah, I don't think it's necessary to do that. And I think someone can be a supportive family member without knowing all about your abuse. But it's hard to be it's hard to have a good marriage no matter what. It's hard to be a good parent or, you know, to have, or a good sister no matter what. And so the abuse does make it especially hard. What other healing tips can you share? Thank you for asking, Simply Nature. So I was, I'm going to pull up my How I Heal. So here. So Now, a lot of things came up on my site, so okay. Um, I mean, so many different things have helped me heal. Um, but what I have on my basics list is get enough sleep at night, healthy eating, exercise, quit trying to do too much. Psychotherapy, I'm very much in favor of psychotherapy. I personally could not have gotten well without it. And it is really hard to find a good match with a psychotherapist. And I don't, yeah, it's just really hard to find a good psychotherapist. I myself have had to keep trying. Um, I shared that I had 3 really bad therapists when I first moved to Bellingham, which was just 4 years ago. I since did find a good therapist. There are good therapists. Um, I take antidepressants, and I have had people say to me since I posted this publicly that, I'm going to try antidepressants again, but I've been on them for 30 years and I may always be on them. I'm on a lower dosage than I was for a while, so my dosage has gone up and down with the stress in my life, but I still need them, even at my level of recovery. And then I do talk about other medication. I'm not on any other medication at this time. Um, I've already talked about meditation prayer, and there's several different ways I meditate. Um, right now, it's mainly yin yoga, which I love. I do for an hour at a time. You hold poses for 3 to 6 minutes. It feels great for your body and just it feels great. Physical therapy, and I'm still in physical therapy occasionally. Massage. Oh, I didn't talk about massage, another body healing, body work. I love massage. I'm never going to quit having massage. I quit going out to eat, but I kept having massage. I mean, even when my money was tight, I try to find a way to do massage. I bought a massage table so I can trade off doing massage with like a girlfriend. I just can't be well without massage. Chair massages are sometimes good because they are um, less expensive, um, and or just like foot massages. That's what I've done sometimes. If I was going to someone new, maybe I didn't trust to have a full body massage. Meditation CDs and downloads, and I have. I just find those really helpful. I use a mouth guard at night for my TMJ. And then I end by saying on my healing list, creativity, finding a way to be creative. And I have a essay, The Magic of Creativity, that tells behind the scenes about my films and other artistic things. But on days, even on days when I was super, super in pain, if I started writing, and if I was writing something that I knew I was the only one I could write, I started being happy and wanted to live a long life. And I just dropped my phone, but it's okay. Um, I so my creative life is something I treasure. Finding ways to be creative can help you be happier, to be alive, and then more well. It's healing, spirituality, and I'll just read what I have written here. I can't find a way to summarize this source of strength and happiness. Survivors are some of the most spiritual people in the world. And then dream about a happy, healthy, productive future. I did, and my dreams came true, and they really have. So, but having those dreams, maybe having a dream board, cutting out pictures from a magazine that remind you of what you want in your life someday, posting that on your refrigerator so you see it often. Let yourself dream because your dreams will come true. And then I end by saying, as always, take what you like and leave the rest. To get well, each person needs to navigate their own path toward healing. Yours, what I know for sure is yours won't be exactly like mine. So those are some things about healing. And I use earplugs always. Yes, I think earplugs can be really helpful. Yeah, some people don't like massage because it links with abuse, right, Christina? And some people only feel comfortable being massaged by their partner. Or self-massage. Oh, self-massage, melt, MELT. It's M period, E period, L period, T period. Someone could write that down for me, so other people can see it. But it's a type of self-massage that you get equipment that you lay on, or you get balls that you step on or that you put under your hands, and you can give yourself a hand massage, you can give yourself a foot massage. If you get the roller, which is more expensive, you can, but it's softer than other rollers, and you can uh, give yourself, like a back massage. It's something that I still do, and it's the balls for are what I especially recommend, and they're expensive for what they are, but I think they're affordable. So you just go to the Melt website and find a way to do self massage, because this is really helpful. Massage is really helpful. Yeah, and if self-touch is maybe what works for you. Some people are saying massage doesn't work for them. I think someone was asking Imprium about, I did feel angry and painted the word pedophile on my grandfather's door out of anger. I know now it's wrong, but I still hate him for hurting my mom. Oh, that's so sweet. You stood up for your mom. Oh, that's just so sweet. Well, I don't know if it's wrong or right, but I, it's yeah, yeah, that's very sweet that you stood up. Survivors like for someone to stand up for them. You try to do it in a way that's legal, though. Do it in a way that's legal. Don't get yourself in trouble, but that doesn't help a survivor. About secondary trauma, my grandfather abused my great-grandfather abused my grandfather abused my mother and her siblings. My mother never spoke about it, but I found out. Yeah, thanks, Imprium, for sharing that about yourself. And if there were others that were up, Earth says these are so active. I'm not sure I read that right. Reiki, yeah, I like Reiki. Oh yeah, you don't have to be touched with Reiki. Thank you, weaponized cats. Thank you for saying that. That's right. Reiki, you don't have to be touched, and it has many of the same healing qualities as regular massage. So thank you for bringing that up. You have good ideas for each other. Oh, thank you for sharing. I am a third generation of sexual abuse. Yeah. Sexual abuse doesn't stop. And I mean, I'm really pleased that I was able to stop the generational abuse, but it went back through at least 3 generations. At least, yeah. So yeah, it's when we heal, I mean, those of us in recovery, I mean, we heal so our descendants don't have to experience this. And for people, you don't have evidence or whatever, but we are the evidence, and we are the change. So okay, I like that you're making comments to each other. I hope you all are getting a lot out of this. I have a list of advanced steps for healing. I'm going to say those right now. Advanced steps for healing. These are the things I'm still doing. Exercise. I just can't be well unless I exercise. I walk 10 to 20 miles a week. I live in a real pretty area, so I walk on paths. I still go to physical therapy at least a few times a year. Still eat really healthy. I put a recipe of mine in here where I slice up an apple and then I microwave it 3 minutes, and then I put a small slice of my homemade bread on it and a little butter, microwave it another 30 seconds, sprinkle it with cinnamon, no sugar. And so no refined sugar, just the apple. And yeah, I do better staying away from refined sugar, as much as possible. I still get psychotherapy. I'm still using antidepressants. I still am very, very careful with my sleep because I do still have sleep problems and nightmares. I'm in 2 private Facebook groups with fellow child abuse survivors. One of them is specifically for familial sex trafficking, and you can Facebook friend me. My Facebook is on my website, or you can email me and get my Facebook information. But identify who you are, because I don't always friend people unless I know who they are. Yes, I did tell my parents what I remembered. Yeah. And the other thing I do now is I have good relationships, balanced friendships, not only friendships where I'm trying to help another person. Yeah, I did talk to my parents. Actually, they knew about it in my own situation. They knew about it because they, my father's sister was the first person who told them about the generational abuse, the satanic ritual abuse. And then after that, I talked to her, and that's when my memories came. So they really already knew about it from her, but I called my father as soon as I had a memory about him. And he just, he said, is this going to lead, it wasn't a sexual abuse memory. And he said, is this going to lead you to think I sexually abused you? Which was interesting. That was the first time sexual abuse was mentioned. But yeah, I did confront my parents by phone, by email, and yeah, really by phone, by email. I did meet with my father once after my mother died, but it was a confrontational, and I planned to go confront him in person, but ended up doing it by phone instead. But it was a very confrontive phone call. I was never abused sexually, but my father was addicted to pain pills for a decade and was very physically and verbally abusive. He's better now, but my mother was always passive. Yeah, I am so sorry that happened to you. Physical abuse is, or living with an addict is really hard. Physical abuse is really hard, and verbal abuse. I was verbally abused in my first marriage, and I went to domestic violence groups for women, and they were so I thought they might not accept me in their group because I wasn't physically abused, and some of them had just been tortured by their spouse, and they all said verbal abuse is just as bad. I mean, healing was, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I love that name. If you want to send me the pronunciation, I'll pronounce it. But starting with a D, name starting with a D. Healing was very powerful, and I'm sure very helpful in healing all survivors of abuse, but especially child sexual abuse and trafficking. I think you're talking about child sexual exploitation. Yeah, survivors of commercial child sexual exploitation and trafficking. Yeah, I hope it's yeah, my intent is for it to be healing, and to even just point you to things that may be healing. Something I tried to do, and I'm just not well enough yet, is voice lessons. I've taken voice lessons before, but I took them online and recently, and I wanted to work on breathing, and it was just too upsetting for me to really breathe really deeply. So that's on my list of something I'm going to do later. Um, is sharing your story healing? Yes, it's very healing. It's healing because I'm going against the people who said, don't tell. It's also healing because it gives me, I don't have contact with my siblings. They don't want contact with me. They say I'm crazy, but it gives me siblings, it gives me other people. I got a email from someone who had seen the last live we did, and she lives in another country. And she said, I cannot find a shelter for sex trafficking survivors. And she needed one. And she recognized that what was happening to her was, in fact, sex trafficking. And a lot of times, sex trafficking survivors don't really realize it because, they're told that this is their fault. But anyway, she and her son needed to get to safety. And I didn't know of any resources in her country, but there are resources, domestic violence organizations in every country. And I suggested she just go to a domestic violence try to contact a domestic violence shelter, and she did. And she found one not in her city, but in another city, which was good because she needed to physically get away. And now, and then I got another email from her saying I applied to the domestic violence shelter, but I don't know how to get there because my father, is a trafficker, is my trafficker, and he has connections with the police in our city. And I, didn't want to suggest something and then find out I'd made the wrong suggestion. It is really dangerous during the getting out process. But I again said the domestic violence shelter may be able to help you because it's unfortunately not uncommon for a police officer to be an abuser and abusive spouse. And so anyway, last I heard from her, I did hear from her back, and I did check on her. I didn't hear from her for a couple of days. I checked, and she said, I'm now in safety. So she and her little boy are living in safety now. So yeah, that I'm just so happy for her and for her child. How did you find the courage to say, here I am, I'm Mary Knight, I'm a survivor of abuse? Well, one thing is I'm old. And I'm a real extrovert, so I'm someone who would want to speak out. And I really wanted to when I was younger, but my marriage, I really had to leave my first marriage before I could. I mean, he didn't even want me to talk to personal friends, and I still did, but he not when he was present. I mean, it was a verbally abusive marriage. And also, I didn't do it when my sons were young, but my sons are grown now, and I feel like I can say as much as I want. And not about them. I don't share their stories, but I my share about being a parent, and I feel like I can. Oh, you want to know what was my motivation for sharing? It was to help other survivors. My motivation for sharing about my life is to help other survivors. And I had a relative. I had some. Well, I do tell about this in the family one, so I'll tell a little bit about. I have a cousin who was not supportive of me making the film, and she thought people were gonna investigate and figure out who she is. And anyway, I broke contact. She remembers the same abuse, and she wasn't supportive of me making the film. And she said, "Well, you could make it for yourself, to watch yourself." I'm like, I mean, my film took a lot of people working a lot at a really low cost, but it still cost over $50,000. It cost a lot. I've spent a lot of money on filmmaking, and that's one reason I'm not going to make any more. It's just really expensive for me and my husband to pay for, and we have gotten some contributions, but mostly we paid for it. So no, I'm not going to spend all that money. Ask people to work as volunteers so I can watch a film about myself. No. And so anyway, we are not in contact, and she didn't like what I was doing. And I'm so glad I didn't listen to her, because this has helped so many survivors. And she still has her privacy. No one has looked her up. So let's see. I had a question about important stages of healing. Oh, that's such a broad question, because every stage is important. And I think I will say, I think anger is a very important stage of healing. It is so minimized, and especially in this culture, and maybe especially for women. Well, no, I think any survivor, we're not supposed to be angry somehow. And I think that's a stage of recovery. My heart goes out for you all. A victim in Holland told his story to the justice system. He spent almost 1 year in prison and is, according to the system, delusional. So sad. That's very, very sad. I will say nothing like that has happened to me. I mean, I've lost a few friends, but not many. I mean, the things that, by speaking out, like I'm not in contact with that cousin, and but it's worth it. I have other people who I'm closer to than really I've ever been to her. Well, I mean, I would still like to be in contact with her, because she's a part of my childhood, and I don't have much of my childhood left. But choosing between contact with her and my films is like an easy choice. My films were like my daughters. Imprium said, I will watch the rest of the stream tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Imprium. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments. Will there be a sequel? There'll be a sequel to this live. I'll be on a live again. I'm thinking in about a month. A sequel to my film would really be Mothers and Molestation, a film about child abuse, which will be available in November. My memoir is coming out in November, and I do not plan on a sequel to it, but it is Becoming Mrs. Brown, Essays by a Child Sex Trafficking Survivor. Me. Oh, that's so sweet. Durancy? Maybe I pronounced that right. You really are helping so many people. My heart goes out to you and all survivors, and your stories are not just helping each other, but all abuse survivors. Thank you so much. Where can I purchase a memoir? Go to my website, or email me, and I'll put you on the list. If someone wants on the list, so I will keep your emails and email you in November when it comes out. It will be on my website in November when it comes out. I'll have a link to Amazon where you can buy it. But if you want on an email list, feel free to email me, and I will put you on a list and email you the day my memoir comes out. So yeah, love to do that. Thank you from Australia. Thank you, Sherry from Australia. And Earth needs to go now, but we'll watch it later. God bless you and all the hardworking team who helped with all of this. Peace. Thank you, Earth. I don't see another question right now that's new. Oh, I have 10 minutes left. Okay, something else you want me to answer? I just really just those of you who are in recovery know it's so hard work. Monique, thank you. I'm glad you liked listening. Oh, here's another thing on my how to heal list. Play. Find ways to play. Oh, that's kind of a good way to end. Find things you can do that are playful. And it's really hard to find adults who like to play. So one thing I do is hang out with kids, and I enjoy having kids in my life. One year I hosted a neighborhood Halloween costume party. It was really fun, just in the front yard. Early in my recovery, I started collecting dolls, and I actually have bought some. I splurged and bought some expensive dolls, and I would also buy really nice, like um, paper dolls, and I would just sit and cut those out. Um, I at a conference, I started. I started bringing toys to a survivor conference, and we'd play with the toys on the night before the conference. And one time, I remember at a conference, just stretched out on the floor, and it had been a really intense workshop. And afterwards, another attendee and I read children's books to each other. I love children's books. I sit with a 6-year-old, and that's part of my fun recovery because I like to get books for her and read them to her. She doesn't read quite yet. I mean, she will in the fall. She'll learn to read, I think. I've done a lot of lighthearted things, like I took ballet lessons, and I mean, I just took a few. Like at age 42, I took my first ballet lesson, and it wasn't really for me, but I'm glad I did it. So like my pink ballet shoes are a keepsake now. I tried gymnastics. I took a private gymnastics class, and that was really good because it was just me and the gymnast, and I tried things. I again only once. Oh, so much fun! You're from Paris. Oh, cool. Hmm, sounds fun. And I have tried Reiki. I like Reiki. I yeah, a good Reiki massage therapist is just really helpful. And again, I'm always fine with touch, but earlier we talked about some survivors don't want to be touched, so Reiki is especially good. And let's see, other things to do. Play. Oh, I took just two, but I took belly dancing lessons. I took aerial yoga once, a couple times, I guess. It was kind of fun, but I, I do have to be careful with my body, and it was fun. I'm glad I got to do it. I've taken clowning. Um, yes. Oh yeah. Good. Nice to hear from the attendee from Paris. Um, My updated documentary replaced my old one. Yes, I have one. They're both on Real Women, Real Stories, but one is 55 minutes long, and I did not include some footage in that one based on, I had an assistant editor that really gave me bad advice. And anyway, the new one is an hour and 45 minutes. It does replace the other one. The sound is better too. The color correction is better. I got better people to do the finish edit on it. I have it. I have German subtitles for it, so I don't know if anyone's from Germany, but that will be put up in a week or two. The hour and 45-minute one with German subtitles. I am in Washington State, not Washington, D.C. Orienteering is my favorite thing. I'm not familiar with the word orienteering. Can someone let me know I think of volunteering, but maybe it's some kind of healing modality that I haven't heard of. Oh, it's somatic. Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, somatic healing is really helpful. And yeah. My name is Yasmin. Thank God for this channel, Annika Lucas, which is how I was able to listen to testimonies, resilience from survivors of abuse. Yes, yes, Annika Lucas has some wonderful videos on the channel, and her memoir just recently came out. You can get it at her website, which you spelled her name correctly. So using that spelling, you'll be able to Google it. I've started reading it. It does have a lot of trauma in it, and so I'm just reading a little at a time to take care of myself. But it's well written. Oh, from Paris, a message. You have such a radiant aura, youthful, absolutely beautiful. Thank you, especially coming from Paris. Thank you. We have, what, 4 minutes. I want to say to each of you, take care of yourself. If you're a survivor, or just because you listen to hard things in this life, take care of yourself today. See if you can think of one thing you could do to take care of yourself. I'm going to go to a farmer's market, and I have that on my schedule. When this is over, I'm going to go to the closest farmer's market. It's not far away, but I'm going to drive over there and get some good fruit and that kind of thing. And so think of a way you could take care of yourself today, because this has been hard. And if you're on this so you can help other survivors, so you're not a survivor, but you can help survivors, and this is also hard for you because you're finding you deserve a break today, so give yourself a break today. We have just a couple of minutes. I'll say one more thing that has to do with healing. It's safety and setbacks. When you finally make it to this really safe place in your life, which I didn't feel completely safe in my home until my current marriage. I didn't feel financially secure until that time. I didn't feel like someone had my back until I met my husband. And I was really sick the first 6 months we were married. I had extreme, horrible nausea. And I wonder why that was. And then I talked to someone else. There's a doctor who's done research on that and has found that when you are safe, your body knows it, and it knows, oh, now I can do what I need to do to heal. And so you actually, it's not a straight line up to recover. So remember that. If you have a setback, remember that, and just keep taking care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Play today. Have a good day. Do something fun. Do something relaxing. Do something for you. If you're here to help survivors, you still need to help yourself too. So take some time to relax and take care of yourself. Email me. I'm glad for you to email me. Oh, what a nice way to end from Paris. Much love and respect for your courage and the help you communicate. You help raise vibrations, and it helps the whole collective of survivors in the world. Thank you so much. And Sue, I haven't heard from Sue before. Take care as well, and thank you for your great advice. Thank you, Sue. And if there's others who I didn't read your comments, I'm sorry. I will read them later. Tell your friends about it. Maybe they'll want to watch this later because it will be posted. And for those of you who are listening and it's not live, know that you also can contact me. You can email me if you have questions. We'll do another one in a month. Thanks. Bye.